Hello and happy Sunday. A new league year is here. So that means there is plenty to talk about as we've gone through kind of the free agent frenzy period, checking out all the moves that are happening in the NFL. I'm going to be back with you periodically here in the offseason, checking out some things as we get ready for the 2026 NFL season, getting closer to the NFL draft, getting closer to the scheduled release. So, very excited to be here to talk about all that is going on. So, we will have that coming up next.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour podcast. Back with you. Another great season is about to take off and be upon us, but it starts with the flurry of activity. Right as the Super Bowl was wrapping up, we had all the coaching slots hired, talked about my feelings about some of the coaching. Now we're getting some players changing places. So let's dive in a little bit to the big player movement. I'm going to highlight a couple of the big player moves, either re-signings or signings at each of the positions as we go through. I looked at my 10 favorite moves and a couple of honorable mentions on the site on Friday, so you can go check those out. One of those that was in there, the Dolphins signed Malik Willis, a 3-year deal. They released Tua Tagovailoa. We'll get to him in a minute. Malik Willis coming over from Green Bay, definitely going to be taking over in that starting spot. And you remember at one point in time when he ended up getting drafted by the Titans, he was a third-round pick. But some had thought he might be the best quarterback prospect in his draft class. That ended up being Kenny Pickett going to the Steelers in the first round, ended up being kind of the top of that draft class. No one in that draft class, aside from Brock Purdy, has really ever developed into anything. But a lot of the talk was that Willis would need some time to develop and some effort poured into him. Didn't really find that in Tennessee, but the last 2 years in Green Bay certainly found that with some better coaching. Jeff Hafley, who is the Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator, had a front row seat to that. That gives him some potential and some upside. I'm not going crazy here. He should be rostered everywhere in Dynasty. Again, not going crazy. But I think there is some upside to be found with Malik Willis. I don't mind the signing. I think he is a QB3 with some QB2 upside. Kyler Murray, released by the Arizona Cardinals, lands on a 1-year deal with the Minnesota Vikings. We had a couple of high-profile starters released where their teams ate huge cap hits, where they're going to get a lot of money from that deal. So they took low-money 1-year prove-it deals. Murray, the first of those, going to the Vikings. J.J. McCarthy is there. They were definitely not super pumped with what they got from J.J. McCarthy, and I think that makes sense. Kyler Murray, could he have some QB1 upside? He definitely could. It's an interesting pairing with Kevin O'Connell. He needs to reboot and rehab his image, on the field, off the field, in what he can do. But we've seen some fantasy upside before. They still have Justin Jefferson, as long as he does not try to get traded out. There have been some rumblings he might want that. Jordan Addison, who knows what's going on with him between his off-field shenanigans. He posted a picture of himself in a Bears jersey the other day. Who knows what's going on? But on paper, this is a decent offense with a decent chance, and Kyler Murray could put up some good stats. I think he definitely gets the nod over J.J. McCarthy. I like him as a QB2. I think he has some QB1 upside. In Atlanta, they went and picked up Tua Tagovailoa. He is similarly on a 1-year deal, kind of a rehab deal. The Falcons released Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix Jr. coming back off of another knee injury. It makes sense. Both Penix and Tua are left-handed quarterbacks with a somewhat similar skill set. This gives Kevin Stefanski a couple of options to work with. They still have Kyle Pitts. They brought in a couple of complementary receivers. They still have Drake London, Bijan Robinson, still the core elements of a very good offense. And I think having two quarterbacks who are roughly the same skill set, who are both left-handed, will mean they won't have to keep resetting the offense. It's a chance for Tua on a 1-year deal to try to rehab his image, try to build things back up. We'll see how that works works out for him. The Colts agreeing to deals to bring back both of their big guys. Daniel Jones ending up on a 2-year, $88 million deal, got the transition tag. They're able to work out. I guess you would call it long-term because it is a 2-year deal. He is coming off that Achilles injury. Will he be ready to go week one? Hard to tell. Alec Pierce, who was also pictured in this picture, was going to be a free agent, ends up re-signing on a 4-year, $116 million deal. You figure he is the wide receiver one there. We'll pair with Josh Downs and tight end Tyler Warren for whoever is back there, whether it's Jones or Anthony Richardson was given permission to seek a trade. Do trade partners have come? Is he going to end up being kind of the starter while they're waiting for Daniel Jones? You notice I did not mention Michael Pittman Jr., and that's because he got traded over to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers then gave him a new 3-year, $59 million extension deal. So he and DK Metcalf paired over there. They also picked up Rico Dowdle to pair in the backfield with Jalen Warren. So they've got some weapons. We just don't know what they're doing at quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, we thought we were going to know for sure what he was going to do by the time the season started. By the time the new league year started. Still don't know. And don't know when we're going to find out. And some of the quarterback progression of chairs is drying up. Derek Carr is rumored to want to come back. Team would have to trade for him from the Saints. Kirk Cousins still floating out there. Where is he going to land? Some speculation he might go to Las Vegas. That might be the veteran bridge with likely Fernando Mendoza coming in there. Could he be an option for the Steelers? Certainly could be. Who knows what Arizona exactly is doing? They signed Gardner Minshew. It seems like they're going to compete with Minshew and Jacoby Brissett. An interesting turn of events. That's the quarterback room. How about the running backs? Well, the biggest domino was Kenneth Walker, the the Super Bowl MVP, the former Seattle Seahawks, signs with the Kansas City Chiefs, 3 years, $43 million. I like the signing. Coming back, Eric Bieniemy is back running the offense there. Has done some good things with running backs, both as rushers and receivers. I think he could be a good part of the mix there. Probably boosts his fantasy value quite a bit. I think he ends up being an RB1 for Dynasty. I think he could end up being an RB1. And it's a bummer for me because not only would I like to see him on the Broncos, I really would not like to see him go to Kansas City, but a pretty ideal landing spot. Travis Etienne, and that is how you're supposed to pronounce it now, apparently, the last name, goes to New Orleans on a 4-year, $61 million deal. I didn't mind this. I think that he can add a lot. We've seen Kellen Moore do some great things with running backs. Running that offense, he'll be definitely a weapon and support for Tyler Shook. Going with Chris Olave, they still have Alvin Kamara, and that's what makes me wonder exactly what the mix and everything is going to be in 2026, unless they move on from Kamara. There have been rumblings. Kamara obviously getting older, but is still a productive player. Are those two guys going to team? They feel like they have a very similar skill sets. So 2026 may not be his greatest year, but they have committed to him long term. So I think that'll work out. The Denver Broncos brought back J.K. Dobbins. He gets a 2-year, $16 million deal. Tyler Algier goes to the Arizona Cardinals, 2 years, $12.25 million. I thought that was a pretty cap friendly deal. He's the head of a committee there. They still have Connor. They still have Trey Benson going into year 3. We haven't seen much from him, but he's there. And they still have Bam Knight. So a little bit of a muddled situation. As I mentioned, a little bit of a muddled quarterback situation too. It wasn't my favorite landing spot. But there it is. Kenneth Gainwell goes to Tampa Bay, 2-year deal. Going to be behind Bucky Irving. Should be good. One of the more interesting ones to me, Chris Rodriguez, a 2-year deal to go to Jacksonville. They lost Achane. So it's Bashal Tutin and LaQuint Allen and now Rodriguez. So could be some interesting options there. So that's a look at the running back room. How about wide receivers? Well, probably the biggest move was trade The Chicago Bears sent DJ Moore to the Buffalo Bills, along with a fifth round pick for a second round pick. The Bills needed a weapon, so this makes some sense. We've seen DJ Moore be a very productive receiver and a wide receiver one in the past. I think he definitely has some of that upside with the Buffalo Bills. His welcome with the Chicago Bears had kind of worn thin. Didn't seem like he and Caleb Williams got along that well. I think this is good for Luther Burden and Roma Dunze and Colston Loveland. They have plenty of weapons there in Chicago. Mike Evans moving on from Tampa Bay, where he had 11 straight 1,000-yard plus seasons, did not do as well in year 12, but signs a new 3-year deal with the San Francisco 49ers. He's made a lot of comments. He said the 49ers were one piece away from the Super Bowl, and he thinks he can be that piece. They lost by a lot in the playoffs. I don't know if that was a one-piece kind of deal, but I do like the signing there. He pairs at least with Ricky Pearsall. Juwan Jennings, a free agent. You have to assume they're probably letting him move on. They have not yet released Brandon Ayuk, which I find interesting. We'll see how that plays out over the offseason. Christian McCaffrey had a lot of touches last year. That has not typically boded well for the season after that, but we'll see what happens. They still always have some options. The running back room, Brock Purdy, is there. They need to get their line together. Are they going to end up trading Trent Williams? I think there are some questions for San Francisco, but I do like Mike Evans going there. I think he gives them a decent weapon. Another team that needed weapons is the New England Patriots. They land on Romeo Doubs on a 4-year, $80 million deal. They had released Stephon Diggs, although Diggs may end up coming back on a little bit of a reworked deal, but Romeo Doubs, not the flashiest receiver, doesn't have the highest upside of the receivers from Green Bay, but was definitely consistent, a good possession receiver. I think that will certainly help. They need better weapons and more options surrounding Drake May there in New England. Last of the big splashy wide receiver moves, Wan'Dale Robinson, a 4-year, $78 million deal going to the Tennessee Titans. Look, Brian Dable got the most out of Wan'Dale Robinson. He had 90-plus receptions each of the last 2 years. Actually, his first 1,000-yard season last year with the Giants was definitely a weapon and a good receiver for them. They need weapons and receivers to put around Cam Ward. He's familiar with Daboll's scheme and offense. How is Calvin Ridley going to be coming back off of injury? What do they get in year 2 from Ao Minor, Shamir Adike? They're still a work in progress, but I think it is an interesting signing. Rashid Shaheed goes back to the Seahawks on a 3-year deal. That keeps their top 3 receivers from their Super Bowl winning team intact. That is great news for Sam Darnold. They also still have their top 2 tight ends, in A.J. Barner and Elijah Arroyo, so a good situation there. Speaking of tight ends, we got the answer to the question. Travis Kelce is coming back at least for one more year, signs a 1-year deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. Going to be running it back. The Chiefs got Kenneth Walker. They re-signed Tyquan Thornton. They brought back Travis Kelce. Some questions about when Mahomes is going to be ready, especially coming off of a pretty major knee injury. They don't have a really solid backup quarterback situation yet, so that'll be something to be watching as we go forward, but probably good for them to have Kelce back if they want to make a run. Probably the biggest tight end move of moving teams is Isaiah Likely agreed to a new 3-year deal with the New York Giants. He's obviously familiar with head coach John Harbaugh. Gives a weapon to Jackson Dart, kind of dampens a little bit of my enthusiasm for Theo Johnson, who was a rookie tight end last year that I thought showed some flashes and promise. Daniel Bellinger had left, went to Tennessee. I thought that maybe opened some opportunities, but I figure Likely is going to be the starter and the focal point of the passing game at the tight end position for the Giants. So that is a look at some of the big positional moves, the guys that are changing teams and making an impact. Also in the tight end realm, another one I'm watching, Chigo Okonkwo, formerly of Tennessee, signed a 3-year deal with the Washington Commanders. Zach Ertz, obviously older, another devastating injury, probably wasn't going to be back. Okonkwo gets them younger. He has been a passing game weapon. Sort of kills my enthusiasm for a breakout for Ben Sinnott. Ben Sinnott just may never actually happen as a thing at the tight end position for fantasy. but a decent move for a Commanders team that needs to put some more weapons in and around. There are still some big names available out there on the free agent market. We'll see what happens. I'll be back in a couple of weeks looking at free agency winners and losers, talking about any of the other big moves that have happened in that time and looking ahead a little bit. But until then, hope you guys have a wonderful week and happy new league year.